Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for our Peeling the Onion tutorial, where we will be exploring viable means to perform secure mainframe file transfers. This webinar is one of many webinars in our instructional series. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about SDS, or Software Diversified Services. We're headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have quality mainframe software since 1982. Our expert development and technical support teams are based in Minneapolis. We have over 25 products for ZOS, ZVSE, ZVM, MVS, and distributed platforms. We're proud of the hundreds of organizations worldwide who rely on SDS solutions. We focus our efforts on mainframe security, compliance, network monitoring, and CICS. Our motto is do more with less. We focus our efforts in providing you cost-saving products and legacy replacement tools. Where appropriate, we partner with strategic subject matter experts in the industry who can add expertise and value to the SDS portfolio. We're very proud of the fact that we are winners of several cybersecurity awards. Before we get started with our presentation, let me just tell you quickly about a couple of future events on the horizon. February 27th, we will be providing a webinar on mainframe security and compliance, how to untangle the mess. We'll overview mainframe security compliance strategies and requirements and discuss some solutions that will hopefully help you lessen workload, add security, and simplify compliance. And then for those of you who will be going to the Share Conference in Phoenix, please stop by our booth. We'll be at booth 516 in the Expo. We look forward to meeting our customers, chatting about your requirements, and meeting some of the new folks out there that are interested in some of the SDS solutions. Here's who's going to be presenting today. Let me introduce our team. Tim Full is our Technical Services Manager here at SDS, and he's located in our Minneapolis headquarters. He's going to be discussing peeling the onion of Secure FTP when it comes to the pros and cons of all the different ways to do that. Colin Vandeross, our Senior Systems Engineer, is located in our Atlanta facility. He's going to be demonstrating 5 different file transfer options. And I'm Deb Hodson, the Sales Manager here at SDS, located in the Research Triangle Park, Raleigh area of North Carolina. And I'm doing the introductions and a little bit of the SDS overview. I will stay here for the remainder of the session in case people have questions. And now on to the presentation. I'll hand it over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Deb, and welcome to everyone. Well, I suspect that you've all seen some news story somewhere about data breaches that have occurred, probably within an organization that you may have had a relationship. And so it's becoming a very important aspect that in our everyday life now to make sure that we take appropriate action to protect any privacy data that's under our domain. As a matter of fact, the government has also been trying to make sure that we're using proper best practices by providing regulations to make sure that we're doing that. But it's always best to get back to fundamentals before you get into heavy, complicated security environments. The interesting part about security is that it's rarely convenient. If it were convenient, we really wouldn't have that big of a problem. So really the trick is to find a good balance between good security and convenience, because if it's inconvenient, odds are really pretty good that people are going to try to find a workaround to bypass the inconvenience of using security. And so you may actually have less security than you desire if it's not convenient enough. So really what you need to do is try to find the right solution to answer the real problem you're trying to address. There are several areas of security that can be discussed. We'll talk mainly today about data that's being transmitted over the network, or what I'd call data in motion. We'll also briefly touch on data that needs to be secured both at the originator as well as the destination, calling that data at rest. And then really briefly just touch on data that might need to be released outside of our own security bubble, such as when we're doing offsite backups, or perhaps when we have some hardware that's become obsolete that had some private data on it. We want to just make sure that that data is well protected, even if it's outside our control. With so many different security domains, there's so many things to consider, but even within a specific security domain, there are several options available for the best ways to accomplish the task. We're going to try to go through a few different options for how you might be able to secure your data while the data is in motion or being transmitted to another site. These different options can all be appropriate depending upon the specific needs that you're trying to accomplish. And so we'll try to review several of these different tools and when it is appropriate to use them. It's my goal to try to provide a scenario where some of these solutions would be best used, and we'll just try to kind of review those benefits and when that's appropriate. First, we'll talk about a tool that's been around for a long time, keeping in mind that when that tool was originally put together, the world was a little different without nearly as many security risks that are out there. Good old FTP has been around for several decades now and still has some appropriate uses, but it's becoming a little bit more limited as to when it's appropriate. Then we'll take a look at how there was an attempt to take the good old FTP and make it secure. This is a good solution in certain scenarios, but it's also a little bit difficult depending upon who your partners might be that you're working with. We'll then continue talking about FTP, but adding into a bit of a hybrid with some other technologies that are out there to help secure your data. What we'll talk about is using FTP going over an SSH tunnel and how that might benefit your organization. Next, we'll talk about another technology that's been around for quite a while and actually has been built around the idea of encrypting data when it's being transmitted, but it has been primarily used on the Linux platform, and so it hasn't been as native on all the other platforms, although it is becoming far more common elsewhere as well. We're going to look at a component called SFTP, which is using SSH as its security model, but the SFTP component that is being used for file transfer specifically. So you already have a big investment in FTP and you want to know what's the easiest way to get from point A to point B. When we discuss this with our customers, this is really a significant problem because they've got FTP jobs buried all over the place, and going back and fixing those can be a real problem. So we will discuss an opportunity for converting FTP to SFTP to automatically get the encryption that's necessary and work well with partners that live on the other end of the line. We'll also discuss some other technologies that maybe aren't specifically designed for transferring files as such, but in general are available and will help to provide the encryption necessary between two sites. We'll just briefly touch on VPN and some of the opportunities it might provide. I mentioned that I would also be talking briefly about how you can protect data when it resides at both ends of the communication so that only certain people can see that data. So we'll talk briefly about PGP. And it does play a factor also in when you're transmitting data to make sure that the data stays encrypted. So let's go ahead and simplify this diagram a bit.